السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. بصوا يا جماعة، من أهم أهداف هذه القناة دايما تقديم الحاجة اللي ليها قيمة للمشاهد، الفاليو. تمام. وعشان ما اطولش في المقدمات، لأن الضيف اللي معانا راجل متحدث بالإنجليزية، فبدون ما اطول في المقدمات أكتر من كده، معايا ومعاكم صحفي ومحلل The Athletic كارل أنكا. Welcome Carl to my show.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you've accepted this invitation. I want to thank our mutual friend Ahmed Walid for making this happen. Shout out to Ahmed.
He's the best.
And yeah, I've listened to you mention him a lot in the Talk of the Devils podcast. And each time you mention him, actually, I tell them, hey, Carl, just mention you. And he told me that he listened to the show and actually... Well, he's a great guy, and you as well, I assume. Thanks for the invitation, accepting the invitation, and hopefully we will do a great video. I want to start with you direct. I was just listening to the latest episode of Talk of the Devils, and coincidentally, one of the questions that I've sent you in the email was the one you covered in the podcast, which is the right-wing combo, the African right-wing combo in the AFCON. Yeah, and I've listened to your answer in the podcast, but I want to cue the viewers in. We're talking about when Ahmad and Wmbomo leave for the African Cup of Nations. What will be the solution for the right flank in Manchester United?
Oh, yeah, big question. Especially
Yeah.
it's also Mazraoui is going to be going to AFCON as well with
Yeah.
Morocco. For me, I think the more straightforward and obvious ways to replace Wmbomo, Ahmad, and Mazraoui right now will be to move Diogo Dalot to right wing back, where Ahmad has currently been playing, and then your right-sided 10 will most likely be Mason Mount, who's played there in the past, most notably for Chelsea. And I think that's the quickest way to do that. There are some question marks there. Can Mason Mount's body handle playing? I think it's 7 games over this period, over this AFCON period. If we assume one of Ahmad and Wmbomo makes it to the AFCON final, which no guarantees. You can tell me very much about there's no guarantees in AFCON. I know
No.
Egypt have enjoyed a very fruitful and prosperous time in AFCON tournaments. Was it 3 in a row?
Yeah, the 3 in a row, but overall we're the most successful country in the AFCON. So
Absolutely, yeah. You've Egypt has placed a dagger in Ghanaian hopes more than once. So
yeah, I remember the last one, the 2010 one, where Ghana was the obvious candidate, but as underdogs we won the championship then.
yeah. I mean, Egypt's history in AFCON has been fascinating because in the last, let's say, 25 years, Egypt tend to win the tournament when there is a outsized focus on the West African nations or the nations closer to the equator. So it feels to me Egypt tend to be best at AFCON when they are considered to be the underdogs.
Yeah, that's quite true, actually.
Yeah, so maybe this can be another big AFCON for your national team. So I think yeah, those will be the two major suggestions. Whether Mount's body can handle that, we'll see. I think Diogo Dalot, I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but he definitely has the fitness and work rate to play right wing back, and I think he'll probably favour playing right wing back because he's naturally right-footed. There are also further options in that you could possibly see one of Joshua Zirkzee or Kobbie Mainoo. I called him Kobbie like Robbie. Kobbie like Robbie Mainoo playing as the right-sided 10 there as well. Although this is also interesting in that how AFCON will overlap with the January transfer window as well. This is a January transfer window where there's going to be a lot of World Cup considerations there too. So you also wonder if there are 2 or 3 people with the Manchester United setup that are telling some of the fringe players, not just Mason Mount and Diogo Dalot, saying, wait, when AFCON comes, now will be the time. I mean, it was only this summer that we were thinking Lamans wouldn't be the number 1 goalkeeper until Andre Onana would depart to AFCON, and now look what's happened.
Yeah. Actually, I was gonna tell you, or once you've got the Diogo Dalot to the right wing back, and I've listened to the show, and you've said also in the podcast that he's not everyone's cup of tea, this will divide a lot of opinions, of course. But I do think that our squad depth is not as good as people think, right?
Yeah, that's something I felt probably since Jose Mourinho was the Manchester United manager. Several years ago, when Tim Sherwood was the manager of Tottenham Hotspur, he used the term much. He used the term much of a muchness when describing Tottenham's squad, where he was trying to say he had a lot of central midfielders, but there were very similar central midfielders, and it wasn't this. If you took one out, the drop in quality wasn't there for him to call it strength and depth. And I felt this for some of Mourinho's time in charge, particularly for some Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's time in charge. I think that's probably why Ole Gunnar Solskjaer probably played Bruno Fernandes and Marcus Rashford as much as he did, because he didn't necessarily trust or rely upon their deputies to step up and play games. I mean, I think you might have seen games where Bruno Fernandes was rested, Donny van der Beek started, and you're going, no, this is not. The team loses too much in terms of percentage there as well. So this Manchester United squad, I think the first team or the starting 11 now is coming into shape. I wrote it last Friday. About 7 players I think are going to be the most trusted deputies or get the most starts this season. So that was Senna Lamont, Matthias de Ligt, Amad Diallo, Bruno Fernandes, Casemiro, Matheus Cunha, and then Brian Mbumo. So I think those 7 players will play the majority of the minutes. But of course, as we just spoken before, 2 of those players, in Amad and Mbumo, are not going to be here for at least a month. So it's going to come up to someone else to step up. This United squad is, I don't want to say it's got strength in depth. I think it's a squad that's a little bit uneven, and the talent levels can go up and down a little bit depending on fitness and mood and time of year. I think the most recent victory over Brighton, the 4-2 victory, the team lost shape and lost a little bit of purpose when Casemiro came off, and also when it was Joshua Zirkzee on the field as well. And I think that's something Amorim will have to navigate between now and the end of the season. I think when you only play 1 game a week, that's not as much of a problem, but it's something to consider for as the season develops, and also for next season as well.
Well, continuing on what you've said, I think we have relied upon our right flank way too often in the past 4 games, and not so much on the left-hand side. I think once Lisandro Martinez returns to the squad, we could see a different dimension. I remember me telling you that I think that our squad is a little bit one-dimensional when it comes to attacking or in possession. So I want to know your view. Okay, so now we don't have a right flank. Okay, we've said the alternative players, Diogo Dalot will play on right wing back, whether we like it or not. Mason Mount, whether this is sustainable or not. But when it comes to what we will do in possession, what do you think will happen?
During AFCON or in general?
Well, I think in AFCON, probably when Lisandro Martinez is back. Let's hope he's injury-free when he returns, and this could give us something different.
Of course. So I said this on Talk of Devils, in that not only will you have to rework your right-hand side, but I think by the time AFCON starts, so December 21st, Lisandro Martinez will hopefully be back to full fitness, if not full match sharpness. I think Lisandro Martinez will most likely come into the left side of that midfield, the left side of that defensive trio. And then we get into a very interesting question. So I want to know your opinion on this, Ahmed. Do you think Luke Shaw can play left? Do you think Luke Shaw can play left wing back?
Well, you've asked me who's interviewing who here. Hopefully he. Actually, I was talking to one of my friends about this. I told him that the best periods for United after the Sir Alex Ferguson era was the ones that Luke Shaw was fit.
Yes, I agree entirely.
And so Luke Shaw playing at left wing back, I don't know if this is sustainable or not. He will be injury free or not, but hopefully he will be. I think it will give us a different style of play, a different dimension of play. But actually, there's no guarantees there. There's no guarantees. Both of them, Martinez and Luke Shaw, have been injury prone, and hopefully that they don't get injured in that period of time in particular. Both of them.
It's theoretically Lisandro Martinez on the left-hand side of your defense, Luke Shaw as your left wing back, and Matthias Cunha as your left-sided 10. That is a very, very strong left-sided unit. Luke Shaw has been historically one of the best ball progressors as a defender in the Premier League in the seasons that he has been fit. He's been very, very, very important for England over his time for the England national team in terms of ball progression. He is deceptively good in the air. He's very good when he has to head the ball. He's very good at wink, wink, nudge, nudge, making sure he doesn't have to head the ball in the air as well when he's going up with other two people. He's not perfect. Look, we'll say Luke Shaw in his day is on the best left backs in Europe, but his day is fewer and far between because he's had those injury problems. And also, sometimes it takes 2 or 3 weeks to get him up to those days. There are games where he's not played well. Roy Keane said he didn't have a great game in the Manchester derby, and Luke Shaw said he understood that. And I think if you look at the difference between a good Luke Shaw performance and a bad Luke Shaw performance, I think that gap is a little bit too big for quite a few football fans. I think a good Roy Keane performance was a 9 out of 10, and a bad Roy Keane performance was a 7 out of 10. A good Luke Shaw performance can be an 8 or a 9 out of 10. A not so good Luke Shaw performance can be below a 5 out of 10. And I think that up and down and roller coaster has seen some football fans, some even football managers, most notably Jose Mourinho, get frustrated at him. If you don't Shaw as your left wing back because you want to preserve his legs, particularly because the AFCON calendar is the most congested part of the year, then I think it will then fall down to Patrick Dorgu playing left wing back. Earlier this season, I said Patrick Dorgu will most likely be one of the more improved players this season, if only because he's going to be playing next to Cunha. And I think last season, it was quite telling that Dorgu and Garnacho didn't appear to have the best chemistry. There were 2 or 3 times where Dorgu was offering over a lapping run, or Dorgu would make certain runs, and Garnacho would just not. He'd either not
ignore him. No, he ignored. Sometimes it felt like he ignored him completely.
Okay. I'd say he either didn't see it or didn't want to see it. But you can use the word ignore there. Whereas I think Cunha, slightly old, older player, sees them very much understands the importance of a overlapping player in wide areas a little bit more than Garnacho, and I think Cunha. I hope that relationship between Cunha and Dorgu will be better than what the relationship was between Dorgu and Garnacho there too. But also, what we're talking about is options. There could be a point in time where Lisandro Martinez is fully fit, and Ruben Amorim decides to persist with Luke Shaw there. I am of the personal opinion that I think Lenny Yoro is better on the left-hand side of the 3 than he is on the right-hand side of the 3, because when he's on the left-hand side, he can cut inside on his right foot. And particularly in a time where Amorim wants his wide players to push up and to offer something, it might be something to see Yoro there too. There's also the fact that Lisandro Martinez has had 2 very serious knee injuries. If you've seen the photographs of him returning to training at Carrington, he's got his shorts on, and if you zoom in, you can see the scar, the surgery scar there. And I'm always feel some kind of way when a football player comes back from a serious knee injury and they go, let's make him play in loads of space. I'm like, no. I think if you've just come back from a knee injury, you want the spaces around you to be as small as possible. So maybe left centre back, he might have to ease into it. This is also why I know loads of people email Talk of the Devils and leave comment sections saying, can Lisandro Martinez play in defensive midfield?
I get the question a lot, actually.
I get that question a lot. I think it'd be unwise to play Lisandro Martinez in an uncommon position when he's come back from 2 big knee injuries. So if he does come back, he'll play the left side of the 3. I think will be his best role. And it's not just what he offers in defense. It's not just, the big thing about Lisandro Martinez is he's not big. He's 5'9", and he doesn't necessarily have the upper body strength or the leverage to bully opposition players off. So that means his timing in his tackle has to be fantastic. I often think about it a little bit like if you're playing a computer game or if you're playing any sort of combat sport, in that the stronger you are, your margin for error when you're blocking or making a mistake is a lot wider than someone who's slightly smaller. And the thing that makes Lisandro Martinez outstanding is that his sense of timing and his ability to go, now's the time I jump up. Now's the time I make the tackle. That has been historically very, very good. I think that timing is different when you play in a wider area compared to when you're playing in a central area. And that will be a challenge. So then we'll see. I think if this was FIFA, if this was Football Manager, I'd be playing Lisandro Martinez, left-sided centre-back, Luke Shaw, left wing-back, and Cunha, a left-sided 10. In the real world, where unfortunately it's getting quite cold in England and you never know what happens to your hamstrings when it gets a bit colder, I think I might do Lisandro Martinez, left-sided centre-back, for a little bit, see how that works. Give Luke Shaw some minutes off the bench, or maybe give him 60 minutes. So I'll probably put Shaw and Lisandro in 60 minutes and then do some swaps with Aiden Heaven or Patrick Dorgu, or maybe even Laniero there as well.
Do you think any of the academy players will be taken from the under-18s or the under-21s? I know that there are a lot of high regards there for Bendito Montato, for example, to play at right wing back, and I think Kamasan also played at right wing back last year. So I do not know if there's any intention to. I think they have trained with the first team, but I do not know if there's an intention from Amourim. I think he's a little bit skeptical-ish when we talk about youth players. But
I think when we talk about youth players and we talk about Amourim's view on youth players, it's very important to put this through the lens of a manager that has lost quite a few Premier League matches. Manchester United lost 21 games of football under Amourim last season, and you talk to any football manager, when you're in a situation where you have had negative results, it's a lot harder for you to put in a young player, because your focus is you just need to win the next game, or your focus is more, I have to win the next game, I need to get buy-in from players and do certain things. You also talk to professional football players or former professional football players, and they will tell you it's a lot easier to put in a young player in a working team rather than putting in a player in a team where not much is going well. And I think this is why Garnacho and Mainu, both of them, have been in quite awkward situations, really, in that I think both of those players have played a lot of football for Manchester United under Erik ten Hag specifically. And they both certainly had their uses, and both certainly provided winning moments, most notably in that FA Cup final win. But also, they both probably played too many games because there wasn't any deputy, or there wasn't any older person to take over them. I think Alejandro Garnacho played a lot of football for Manchester United, and the reason why he played a lot of football for them isn't necessarily because he was the best player, but had a lot to do with the fact that Jadon Sancho didn't work out, Anthony didn't work out, Marcus Rashford was not enjoying his football and was not in a good place at the moment. So then it fell to Garnacho, who was a teenager or early 20s, having to take the load. And then when you play that many games that in such a short space of time, particularly in the Premier League, particularly where there's so many opposition scouts, so much data, so much analysis going on a weekly basis, your flaws, which you will have because you are 20 and you are just learning how to play at senior football, they get magnified to such a high level. And I think to focus this on Garnacho, if you are, I think Manchester United fans know the things Garnacho is not good at. And
it's quite obvious, actually.
But that's a very good way of putting it, quite obvious. And I think it's quite obvious because he played so much football. I think he played 32, 35 games in a row.
Yeah, he played a lot of games.
He played a lot. And he started those games as well. And perhaps he wouldn't have started those games if one of Sancho or one of Anthony, as the more senior player, could have offered more. And Garnacho would have just been playing for 20 minutes or 30 minutes instead of playing 90 minutes. I mean, it's very obvious to quite a few Manchester United fans that Garnacho is better coming off the bench.
Yes, well, legs are drained. He comes on fresh, and then he could do chaos in there. So
and then but he had to start games because there wasn't anyone really there. And I think this is the interesting scenario for some of these young players, some of these academy players, in that I would love for Kone to contribute to Manchester United. I nearly called him Sekou Kone. That's someone else.
I've known that he's returning to the under 21s after the next
after a
international
really
break.
bad head injury. I'd really like him to contribute to for Manchester United, but I think now is far too early for him. He's just recovered from head injury. And normally, when Manchester United win it, I mean, you remember the seasons like Sir Alex Ferguson. Sir Alex would wait until towards the end of the season, normally when the season was already won, and then he'd start playing the young players. What I used to always refer to as Darren Gibson time. Yeah. So that's when the academy players used to normally play. And the problem for that is Manchester United aren't normally winning so many games that Darren Gibson time becomes available and they get thrown into the deep end. So I think Kone is an academy player I'd like to see make the jump to the first team, but I think that's probably going to happen in the springtime. I think Jim Thwaites is really, really interesting too.
Yes, he is.
I think Shea Lacey. I think Lacey, one of the things with Lacey is fitness. He's had 2 or 3 injuries. I think some of those injuries are to do
He's been unlucky.
I think some of those injuries are to do with impact injuries, and also some of those injuries very often are growth spurts injuries. We talked to, I mean, several players have suffered from what they call Oscar Sattergood syndrome, where you go away for the summer and then you grow 6 inches, and all of a sudden your knees are in so much pain because you're dealing with that. And I think some of those injuries Lacey's have had something to do with that. So those are 3 players I'm particularly keeping an eye on, and we'll see. And then in terms of Benito, he looks good. He looks very good. But I think academy players will probably have to wait until the springtime, where hopefully Manchester United are a little bit more settled and Amorim has got his ideas across this a little bit more.
Yeah, let me ask you about Amorim since we've mentioned him. I think I've listened to both your questions actually in the press conference after the Nottingham Forest game and the one before. And I want to ask you about both actually, but I will postpone the one with the away form till after getting. I know that we've been talking about the right wing and his system, but his system has been getting a lot of criticism since his start, and you've talked in the latest podcast about little tweaks, and you've wrote about it a piece. I will mention it below in the description for those of you who want to read it. So what are the tweaks that kind of changed the narrative around Manchester United in the past 4 weeks?
Okay, so I mean, the most obvious one is Manchester United kicking long.
Yeah.
So we are seeing a less settled possession, less slow build up between the back 3. We're seeing less of your middle centre back pushing up into midfield to invert, and you're seeing Lamons, for the most part, kicking long to Benjamin Sesko or someone else in that front 3, and it's more about duels for second balls, and it's more about avoiding. It feels as if Amorim is doing this for 2 reasons. One, because he understands that his attacking players are best when they play quickly, so he wants to just speed that up. And 2, because I think he wants to mitigate risk by having the ball on the edge of his penalty area. And I think quite a few Premier League clubs are doing this now. We're seeing if you just wind the clock back to Ten Hag's first season, or for a very long time under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, one of the more dominant ways, or one of the more common ways teams would build up from the back is you'd either have your 2 centre back split and you have a defensive midfielder drop in, or if the press was very, very strong and your goalkeeper was good with their feet, the goalkeeper would play sort of a chipped through ball to the fullback who was already on the move. And I think that the chipped through ball to the fullback was one of these things that came to define the final years of David De Gea, when we talked about David De Gea good with his feet, because this was a pass that loads of goalkeepers had. Lloris, I think pretty much every single goalkeeper in the top 6.
Ederson and Alisson in particular.
Phenomenal at this. Hugo Lloris is very, very good at this. Vicario is very, very good at this. One of the big questions was, particularly when Dean Henderson played for a bit, was could Dean Henderson do it? And I think Dean Henderson at the time, he could do it in parts, but perhaps wasn't the best at doing it when under pressure. But we're seeing across the board, across the Premier League, fewer goalkeepers are doing this. More of them are kicking long. More of them are trying to play in a very direct manner. I think this is a response to
high press.
a response to the high press. We're seeing more hybrid systems, more man-to-man systems, more hybrid man-to-man and zonal systems. And teams now are going, look, let's not risk it mucking around our box. If we can get it long and get in the middle, we can get it long and get it, not even necessarily in the middle. If we can get long, we can get long. So that's the first change. Tweak. I shouldn't use the word change. I want to be really, really specific here because the first tweak he's made. I think another tweak he's made is the out of possession defensive shape. So for, I'd say as recently as the Manchester derby, Manchester United defended what the majority of the time United defended without the ball. It was a pretty, I want to use the word rigid, if that's proper.
Yes, I was going to say it.
Yeah, I want to use the word rigid, but that's not the word. I want to give Amorim more credit here. But it was a 5-2-3. And one of the big problems there was, it was nowhere near compact enough.
Yes.
And two, the front three, I don't think were aggressive enough in blocking off balls into the middle. And teams found it very, very easy to play through the middle of Manchester United. And when your middle was Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes, so one player in Fernandes who his natural inclination is to push forward, and one player in Casemiro who is now 33, and while he's one of the greatest defensive midfielders of the generation, he cannot patrol all of that space by his own. That made too much space for Casemiro to cover, and it made it very easy to play through United. And a great way of seeing this was the Manchester derby in City just going ping, 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 boom. And then I think the game before Sunderland, what was very, very noteworthy was it's gone from being a 5-2-3 to being more of a 5-4-1, particularly when United get closer towards their own penalty area. So obviously, I think the thing is, Amorim's system is not just play 3-4-3. This is a formation. It is a system that has a chameleon shape. I think there are times when I've seen Manchester United playing a 4-4-2 under Amorim. There have been times I've seen them playing a 5-2-3. There are times I've seen them playing a 5-4-1. It changes depending on the phase. It changes depending on build-up. It changes depending on what they want to do. And I think now you are seeing more and more when they are back and close to their own goal and in their own half, it's a 5-4-1. So the 2 10s drop into central midfield. And I think that gives way more protection to the middle. It means there's less work for Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes to do to run around. And I think that's making United a lot harder to pass through. Really, really big change. Sorry, I've done it again. I've used the word change. I should use tweak.
No, it's okay.
And also, I think we saw this against Brighton in that, particularly against Brighton, De Ligt and Shaw pushed really, really high. Particularly De Ligt. De Ligt was chasing Danny Welbeck even as far as the edge of the Brighton penalty area. I think that was more opposition specific and more to do with personnel. Amorim said when you have guys like Shaw and De Ligt, you can defend really, really high. Whereas if you have Harry Maguire, Maguire's very, very good defending low and defending your box. So those are the most obvious tweaks I've seen in that they're playing in a very fast manner. They're playing in a very direct manner. The out of possession defensive shape has changed as well. I think it can't be overstated that how much of a difference it makes having Senna Lamons in goal rather than having Bayern Deer or Andre Onana in goal now, because Lamons longer in the air and he seems to be a more proactive, more competent shot stopper as well. So I think those are the tweaks, and I think those tweaks will have Manchester United finish closer towards the European spots than towards the sort of 8 down state. What are you seeing?
I've listened to you in the podcast. I think you've mentioned from 5th to 8th, I think, and I think this will be, for me, acceptable, because last season we were way down in that league. So I do not want to remember that. A lot of games that we've seen last year was absolutely dreadful, but we had to see it. So well, this year I think there is a little bit of an improvement, but the narrative around Manchester United, because Manchester United have been in a really, really low point last year. So every game, the narrative changes. After the Nottingham Forest game, I've seen the same people that were crediting Amorim and his system and Manchester United for what they have done in the past 3 games. Seen them criticizing them for getting 1 point out of Nottingham Forest. Sean Dyche in his first game at the City ground, and it was it was written in the stars that that game wouldn't be a win for Manchester United. So I would agree with your view that I've listened to, that from 5th to 8th could be an acceptable finish this season. However, I do not know how this will impact Manchester United on a financial point of view.
We know that last season, Barada told Manchester United staff that the current financial plan was based on qualifying for Europa League football for the next 3 seasons. And then, of course, they completely failed to finish in the Europa League. If they failed to win the Europa League and they don't have Europe. And I think, and this is an outside observation rather than me with inside information, I think the aggressive manner they signed players in the summer was them going, we are going to aim for as high a European finish as possible.
Okay.
I think getting Cunha and Mbouma was them going, okay, we need to make sure we finish at least Europa League football. But then the additional move to go and get Sesko, and it seems, and Laurie has written about this and Chris Weatherspoon's written about this, the idea, it looks as if Sesko was financed by opening more in the revolving credit facility.
Yes.
Which, and some people have called it the club credit card. Apparently, that's not the correct way to do it.
Yeah, well, it's the easier way to interpret it for those who are not familiar with economics. So
now, if you, I don't know about you, but if you buy something on the credit card, that means you intend to have more money to pay that off sooner rather than later. So it feels as if the moves they made in the transfer in the summer window were geared towards finishing in at least the Europa League as soon as possible. So I think right now the trajectory is positive. I think Manchester United, I'm of the personal view that if Manchester United finish higher than 8th, I'll be very, very happy. But I'm keeping 8th as my sort of level. When United beat Brighton and it was 3 in a row, we had 2 or 3 questions going, yeah, I think we can make top 4. Yeah, we can. I think we can make Champions League. I got the train from Manchester to Nottingham on Saturday, and now sat with some Manchester United fans, and they'll go, "Come on, Carl, we can definitely make the Champions League. Aston Villa don't look very good. Spurs don't look very good. We can do it." And I'm going, maybe, but I'm personally keeping it down here. I'm going to keep calm. We still have to play Tottenham next week, and then we'll get an interesting view there. I think that game's going to be really interesting because Amorim says Manchester United are better at home, whereas Tottenham Hotspur right now are very bad at home. So I'll be very intrigued to see how that game plays out.
Yeah, hopefully we will have a good game then. So I wanna ask you regarding Amorim again. Sir Jim Ratcliffe, I think, was the timing of the interview where he said that Amorim has 3 years. Actually, that probably gave a little bit of stability and calmness to the team. But do you think Amorim will stay at Manchester United for 3 years?
I have no idea. Is my honest answer. I have absolutely no idea. If he's the Manchester United manager for 3 years, he would end up being one of the longest reigning post Sir Alex Ferguson coaches. Which, if you were in Bilbao or watched the Europa League final in Bilbao, it was just a preposterous thing. I could not have contemplated that thought he'd be here for 3 more years. I am of the personal opinion that I'm going to take those comments from Sir Jim Ratcliffe with a pinch of salt, because I don't think you should ever trust a billionaire when they say they're going to do something for 3 years or 4 years, because billionaires can be quite capricious. They can change their minds very quickly. And also, as we've seen from the Ineos-run Manchester United, they unfortunately have laid off quite a few people. So if the head of Ineos says this person's going to stay here for 3 years, well, we'll see where we are. I'm not going to think. The fact that you believe that I think quite a few people believe Sir Jim Ratcliffe saying that to the Times, his podcast about business, sort of calmed things down and sort of gave the team a bit of a boost. I think that's good. Whether it's real or not, the impact it has, it seems to be felt around the club. I think it also calmed down quite a few headlines as well, in that Andy Mitten talks about this all the time on Talking Devils, where if Manchester United lose, his phone just starts getting loads of phone calls and loads of emails from people around the world saying, please come and talk to me, please come and talk to me. And I'm similar. I'm getting phone calls from people in Denmark, from people in India, from people in Nigeria saying, please come on our television program and talk to us about whether or not it's going to be fired or not. And it's been quite weird because Manchester United were losing a lot of games and you're going, no, he's not going to lose his job. I don't think he's going to lose his job because it doesn't feel like as if there's any appetite from anyone above him or anyone who's responsible for making that call to sack him. I think everyone involved at Manchester United wants Ruben Amorim to be a success. And then I think the fan base on the majority want him to be a success. The question is, will he be a success? And for that, then everyone's opinion goes here, there, everywhere, boom, 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 boom. So I think right now, Manchester United have the second longest unbeaten run in the Premier League after Arsenal. And that gives him a little bit more credit in the bank. And the more they can go unbeaten and the higher they can push in the Premier League table, then, of course, the longer or the better chance he has for being there for 3 seasons. If he can get to the end of the season, which I think he probably will, unless something catastrophic happens, which I hope not.
We all do.
I think if he gets to the end of the season and gets another summer transfer window, then you'll see a lot more movement in the transfer window, particularly in a World Cup summer. World Cup summers always bring loads of movement, right?
Yeah, it's really hard.
Loads of players get to the end of that tournament and go, I'm going to retire. Or loads of players get to the end of that tournament and go, I've won this trophy and now I want to leave, or I want to do this. And I mean, we're already speaking about certain players in central midfield. And that's just not for Manchester United. I think a lot of clubs, and I mean a lot of clubs, are going to try and buy central midfielders this summer after the World Cup. And a lot of money is going to be spent. I think loads of players are going to be going for 70, 60, for 70, 80, 90 million plus as well. And Manchester United will be in there in the mix. Andy Mitten said it looks like Manchester United can be looking for 2 central midfielder signings. I think one of those will be a marquee signing and one of them might be a smaller signing. So we'll see. And if that is a summer, if summer 2026 is as good as it looks like summer 2025 is, then that only increases the chances of Ruben Amorim being there for 3 years, because it means the team can go from like that sort of 5th to 8th region to possibly being in the 6th to 3rd region. And then I want to see 2 or 3 seasons of 6th to 3rd before we can start talking about 1 and 2. Like
contending.
Let's learn to walk before we can run.
Yes, I agree on that view actually. But do you think in the winter we will be trying to explore something in the market, or we'll wait till the summer?
I think if there is going to be any movement in the winter, it's going to be similar to Marcel Sabitzer, Wout Weghorst. So a cheaper signing. It's very, very hard to do marquee signings in the winter window before World Cup.
I agree.
Years and years and years and years ago, I always remember this. I think Alan Shearer said this on Match of the Day. It was in the lead up to Euro 2012. Okay. And he said, a good way to approach the market is to, before a summer tournament, is to look at like the 3rd or the 4th best striker on a national team, and then see if you can pick them up, because they're going to want to try and they're all geared to scoring as many goals as possible because they want to make the squad for the national team. Now, obviously, that's 12, 13 years ago, so I'm not sure if that way of thinking still works. And obviously now, the 3rd or 4th striker for a national team is a £50 million player, not a £20 million player like they used to be. Yeah. So it's difficult. I think Amorim has already spoken about Joshua Zirkzee and Mainu and their futures. And it seems like those 2 players in particular will have big decisions to make in January, because Zirkzee is probably 3rd choice for the Dutch national team. He's behind Wout Weghorst, he's behind Brian Brobby, he might even be 4th choice actually, because Memphis Depay is the record goal scorer and record assist maker for the Netherlands. Wout Weghorst is playing for Ajax on a weekly basis. Brian Brobby is at Sunderland right now, and he's playing some minutes. So Zirkzee might want to get a move on if he wants to go play for the Netherlands national team at the World Cup. Also, Zirkzee didn't really play much at the Euros as well, so he might want to move for some game time. Mainu situation is really, really interesting. I know there's a lot of Manchester United fans that don't care about the England national team, but it appears Mainu does. And I think Mainu played for England next to Declan Rice in the Euros finals, he's not featured in the last England squad. We're talking right now on a Tuesday. The next England squad is going to be named on Friday. And I don't think Mainoo's played anywhere near enough football for him to be considered by Thomas Tuchel. So it looks like Mainoo might be losing ground to Elliot Anderson and Adam Wharton. I mean, it's very interesting that those are two players who are linked to Manchester United right now as well. So those two might want to leave on loan deals in January, which means Manchester United might be inclined to get a body in to cover. And I want to be really careful in saying a body, not a. I think if you're Manchester United, if you're Jason Wilcox, if you're the money people, if you're the accountant people, it makes more sense to get a short-term fix in the winter window and then spend the 100 million that you want to spend in the summer where more players are available and you've got more time to do business than to try and jump into the market and do business now. I've seen 2 or 3 tweets today where people go, oh, we should go and get Elliot Anderson in January. And I'm going, buddy, that's not happening. And let's really think about this. Nottingham Forest are, for all intents and purposes, in a relegation battle right now. The intention for them right now, the priority is don't get relegated. Exactly. And there is no amount of money that you can give to Nottingham Forest in January that they'll convince them. This sack of money is better than having Elliot Anderson. So I don't think Anderson is going to be moving this January at all.
I agree on that. I do not know whether United, of course, will enter the January transfer market or not, but I think that actually they should, if this is applicable.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah, sure.
Where do you think Manchester United's transfers priority should be in terms of position? So for me, if I was in recruitment, I'm going to go. I want to get a central midfielder. I want to get a left wing back.
Yeah.
I want to get one more centre back, possibly.
Yeah.
Maybe
I think
I probably want 2 central midfielders, a wing back, and then a central defender. So what's your order as you go through?
Exactly like yours. I think this will be the priority next summer. We will go for the central defender. I think it's also an obvious choice, but the midfielders. I think that is the priority. Casemiro might not be extending his contract at Manchester United. I don't think they are gonna do that. Bruno Fernandes, we don't know if he'll stay at Manchester United this summer or not. Well, I do not know if Toby Collier will return to the first squad. I think United will explore an option to sell him. I do not know. It's just assumption.
Toby Collier is a really interesting one in that. Last season it looked like he was pushing.
Yeah.
It looked as if Ten Hag had some ideas for him, and then he played a little bit. He played against Arsenal in the FA Cup third round, but then that was it. Really, I mean, the good thing Collier has in his favour is he can run, and it very much seems like he's got an engine. He can get up and down. He can get up and down. Now the questions are: does he have the sort of passing? Does he have the progressive passing? Does he have the tackling tenacity? So maybe he goes on loan. Maybe he could even go on loan this January. I think it was quite telling after beating Brighton. Amorim was asked about Casemiro, and he said Casemiro was behind everyone when I came in, even Toby. And you're going, whoa! Why'd you have to say even Toby?
I've listened to that. I actually was astonished by the answer, but
yeah.
Well, I do want to ask you though. You've mentioned Kobbie Mainoo. He's a fan favorite. People had a lot of expectations after his first season with Ten Hag, and now he's not getting enough minutes, which makes me want to ask you, actually, it's a kind of 2 questions. The second question is actually coming out of the first one, is Mr. Amorim's in-game management. People probably would suggest that he was using his subs not quite often, do you think?
So Mainoo's use is difficult in that, to my mind, you can very, very easily get Mainoo into the starting 11 if you change to a back 4, right? I think you can. Yeah. I think a change to a 4-2-3-1 or 4-3-3 with Casemiro next to Mainoo and Bruno Fernandes as your 10, and then Mbumo and Cunha flanking on the wings with a striker up top. Very, very easy. You just sacrifice one of your centre backs and do that. Amrin is not going to do that. And when you talk to Amrin about Mainu, Amrin very, very clearly, one of the things he likes to talk about is, I know you English people like to talk about him like he's the finished product, but he still has some way to go, which is correct. I think that's totally true. And I think as much as I love Mainu, and I love him a lot, I think there are parts to his game that he will have to develop because he is very, very young. And if he wants to be a starting central midfield player for a Manchester United team that has ambitions of playing European football, ultimately Champions League football, you need to develop it. One thing that is going to be a big conversation about Mainu for his entirety of his career is that he is not an athlete. He is not rapid. He's not the physically strongest. He does not have a fifth gear or a sixth gear in the same way that, say, Baleba or Anderson or some of these other central midfielder players that we are seeing in the Premier League scene, right? He's not in terms of different profile of player. And this means if you are a football team that is vulnerable to passes down the middle and can get exposed down the middle, Mainu's lack of burst, shall we say, can be an issue. And something I pointed out before in Stretford Paddock is there are 2 or 3 videos of Yuri Tielemans in particular when his time at Leicester City and at Aston Villa, where he is running back, and you can tell he's running back as quickly as possible, but he's not catching up.
Yes.
And in a Premier League that is getting bigger, faster, stronger than ever, that's always going to be a consideration and a tactical consideration you're going to need to have to work around with Mainu. Now, on top of that, Mainu's passing skill is more about circulation of possession. Mainu's outstanding skill is he's press resistant in really, really tight areas. If you're given the ball in a small space, he can wriggle through, nutmeg you, do all sorts of things to keep the ball, which is very, very useful if you are playing the style of football we described before on the Ole Gunnar Solskjaer and Erik ten Hag, where it was more about a defensive midfielder dropping deep, collecting the ball from your centre backs, and then progressing the ball throughout the middle. Amrin doesn't want to do that. He wants to progress. The ball progression is either really, really direct, goalkeeper north to south, or it's the ball going to your back three and then eventually to your wing backs, and it can go that way. And if the ball isn't going through your wing backs, your central midfielders are more offering bounce passes. So it's your centre back. Sorry for this drilling.
That's okay.
It's the centre back into the midfield, and the midfield is very quickly knocking it into the channels for someone to chase. So Mainu's outstanding skills, press resistance, short dribbling, ball circulation, aren't really the things that Amrin wants from his central midfielders. And Mainu's weaknesses, which are lack of outstanding pace, and also I think Mainu hasn't yet shown us that he's a good long passer in the same way that Yuri Tielemans is a good long passer, or in the same way that. Or in the same way that, say, Moises Caicedo is a very, very good long passer. I think Caicedo's passing very often gets overlooked. Or in the same way that Declan Rice is passing. I think Declan Rice can be criticized a lot for passing sideways a bit, but when Rice needs to move it, he can move it very, very well. And also,
nobody's complaining about Rice right now. So,
So I think we can't make Mainu quicker legally.
Yeah.
But we can make Mainu a better long passer. Now the problem there is, how does Mainu become a better long passer when he's playing 10 to 15 minutes per game? Exactly. We've heard counter arguments that those are the minutes Mainu probably should have been playing. That if Manchester United recruited properly, Mainu's development and Mainu's growth into the team would have just been playing these sorts of minutes. And it's the fact that he had a season where he played loads and looked phenomenal, and now he's going back to what is more of a regular integration into a team that everyone's getting there. I think for Amrin, what's going on right now is Amrin needs to win games. And right now, the best way to win games is to play a central midfield partnership with Bruno Fernandes and Casemiro, because they have athleticism. They are willing to cover large spaces. And also, both of those men can just spray it. Really, really big long passes all into certain areas. We know about Bruno Fernandes' passing range, but also Casemiro's passing range is very, very good. And Casemiro, what he does on set pieces too. Mainu's not the best in the air as well. Yes, these are things that needs to be developed too. So I can totally understand why Amrin isn't playing Mainu over Bruno Fernandes, and he's not playing him over Casemiro right now. And Amrin gave a very good answer about what he thought Mainu needed to improve upon. He said sometimes when he plays as the 6, he needs to work on his positioning, and also when he plays the 8 and he has to make the pass and also make sure he follows the pass and keep doing that. And these are all things that, for me, he will do. He would learn and develop at that time. Can he do that at Manchester United? And can he do that at Manchester United under Ruben Amorim? That's where I've got my questions, in that there are many, many coaches across European football, I think, who would really enjoy Manu right now. The player is right now. Yes. Whereas I think Ruben Amorim would probably get more out of Manu when Manu was 26 and built more things to his game. The problem is, I don't know when he's not going to be 26 for a little bit. So we're in the state where he might have to go away and then come back before he can become the Manchester United player we all want him to be. So that's the Manu situation. I think, in my personal opinion, I think a loan is the best move for him right now. I can also totally understand if people in his camp or he himself goes, I don't want to be here no more. I want to go somewhere else. I hope he doesn't leave for good. I hope if he does go, it's just on a loan, because we've seen
similar situations where players go develop and then we regret it once they leave. So
so that's the Manu situation for me. In terms of game management and substitutions, I mean, this is always one where Ole Gunnar Solskjaer called it Harry hindsight. He said Harry hindsight can always tell you that you should have made the sub earlier. Or he said Harry hindsight can always tell you certain things. And I think the substitution question it's really hard, in that after the Nottingham Forest game, he was asked about his substitutions. We only brought on Mazraoui and
he brought on Mazraoui and Patrick Dorgu, yes, on the flank. Both were defensive, kind of.
Only two changes, where he had Harry Maguire, Mason Mount, Joshua Zirkzee, Manu, and others on the bench. So he was asked this question by Samuel Lockhurst, and Amorim said, well, one thing he said he didn't want to make too many breaks. He don't want to break up the flow of the game in the second half. Yeah. And he said sometimes when you're watching a game, you've got to get a feel for it. And he said the feel was his sense was the longer he left those players out there, the greater the chance they would win the game, which I think is interesting. And then he also said he brought on Dorgu for Diallo because he felt Diallo was getting the ball into a lot of areas in the final third, but Diallo, because his right foot, has to take it inside on his right foot. So he wanted a left footer in there to just whip the ball on his left foot. And he also felt that as the game developed in the second half, Yoro, as the right-sided centre-back, was getting the ball more in the final third. And he thought maybe playing more of a fullback characteristic in there, in Mazraoui, who's more comfortable going up and down in those wide areas. I mean, Mazraoui has more of that sort of first-time crossing ability that Yoro hasn't shown yet in great volume yet. And he said that he thought Mazraoui can do that. And I said on Talk of Those, I was in the room and I'm nodding my head going, this all makes sense. This all makes sense to me. I understand why. And then you sort of go home and someone goes, why didn't he just play Ahmad at left wing back and play Diallo at right wing back? And you go, oh yeah, why didn't he do that? Which is the thing, right? In that every single substitute option, if you don't win, is going to get question marks.
Exactly.
And something that could make sense in the moment might not make sense 2 hours when you're watching on an instant replay.
Actually, ironically, I've listened to him after that game, and he said it doesn't necessarily mean that you'll score more when you have more attackers on the field. I know that could make the team a little bit off balance, but ironically, I've seen that clip of Sir Alex Ferguson way too often when he said, in the last 15 minutes, I shove a lot of bodies up front and I'm a gambler and whatever happens, happens. So I actually don't know what is the ideal way to approach it.
So very often, 2 or 3 members of staff at The Athletic watch football games on mute. And I now watch quite a few football games on mute, because I am trying to, particularly if I'm watching a team I've not watched for a little bit, or a team I'm trying to learn a little bit about, I'll watch them on mute, and it helps me focus on tactical patterns, because I've not got the commentator in my ear, I've not got certain things in my ear, and I'm going, okay, so now I can really focus on what's happening, and my opinion's not being colored by certain things. Now, something I find really interesting was not too recently, Mikel Arteta was asked about this, and Arteta said, never watch a game on mute. I'm paraphrasing and being harsh here, but Arteta spoke of the value of watching games with the sound on, particularly the stadium noise. And I think this can get overlooked when we're talking about substitutions. In
Yes.
that, when Amorim is saying he doesn't want to make too many substitutions because he didn't want to make too many breaks, that's him in the moment and the flow of a game. And you got to bear in mind, he is at the City ground. He's playing away from home. The noise behind him is a bunch of Nottingham Forest fans doing stuff, and they sounded worried, right? So that is a very, very different decision-making prism than you or me. Well, I was in the stadium. Than you, perhaps watching on television, or someone watching on television with a different commentator on the air saying he's got to make a sub. They're not getting enough attacking options. And I think when we look at managers making substitutions, one way I sometimes have tried to describe it is if you look at a boiling pot of water or a boiling pot of like pasta or rice, in that you're watching it and you're going, okay, how do I add something to this to make this good, but without getting to the point where it overflows? You're correct. I think you're absolutely correct in that you call Sir Alex Ferguson a gambler. Sir Alex Ferguson always used the word risk. And he said football is about risk and about how much risk you can manage.
Actually, I do not want to take credit. He said it himself. So,
but you're correct in that Sir Alex Ferguson was a gambler, and he viewed, particularly if you were losing, he said, well, if I'm losing 2-1, what's the difference between losing 2-1 and losing 3-1? I may as well throw in another attacker and see if I can do that. Whereas you compare this to someone like, say, David Moyes, who is very much not a gambler. David Moyes is told, we know David Moyes, when he was at West Ham, told Mikel Antonio to not shoot when he was outside the box. And we also know that David Moyes told his West Ham players when they go 2-0 down, it's not about trying to score a goal, but it's about shutting up shop and not conceding a third or a fourth. So Amorim, to my mind, is a bit of a gambler, nowhere near to the extent of Sir Alex Ferguson, because I don't think anyone is a gambler to the extent of Sir Alex Ferguson. And also, you got to bear in mind, Sir Alex Ferguson was a great gambler because Sir Alex Ferguson had more players and more ways to gamble with.
Yeah, and probably only one competitor on the league, each league. So it wasn't as hard as it is now. So
it's easy to make substitute options when one of the players are taking off the bench is Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. You know, you can make those substitute options when one of the players are putting on is someone as versatile as John O'Shea or someone as skilled as Darren Fletcher or a centre back as good as Wes Brown. Whereas if the centre back you're bringing on is just recovering from an injury, Harry Maguire or a Mason Mount, and then it becomes more complicated. So I don't feel as if that game was something that Amorim could have won if he made a different substitution. Also because if it wasn't for Milenko, I think it was Milenko, it might have been Murillo, and if it wasn't for that goal line clearance, would have won that.
Murillo, he've done it
Murillo.
last year. He've done it last year, and he've done it this season as well.
If it wasn't for Murillo, we wouldn't be having this discussion about substitutes because he would have won the game. So
yes,
there you go.
Winning changes the narrative. I know.
Correct.
I know. And he actually says that a lot in his press conferences, and I actually agree with him because I see it with the non-United fans when the narrative changes quite often. So, do you think in the next festive period, Manchester United will be able to maintain this kind of positive vibe going on right now?
I hope so. I think I can't predict anything anymore with Manchester United. Look, I've lost most of my hair, and there's loads of so. I'm now thinking more about hope rather than I think this next run of fixtures is good for United. I think you're playing Tottenham Hotspur at a good time to be playing Tottenham Hotspur. They look, while they're higher than United in the table, there seems to be some real problems in ball progression, particularly in central midfield.
Yes.
Paulinho is a good ball winner, but he's not a great passer, and Bentancur is not the player he used to be due to 2 or 3 injuries. I think without Dominic Solanke, their centre forward options aren't great, and it also looks like Xavi Simons is having an adjustment period to the Premier League. Look, yes. I have watched many a La Liga game where Casemiro has seen a attacking midfielder who's maybe 60, 65 kilograms, and Casemiro's just gone, I'm going to eat you all up. so maybe you could do this to Xavi Simons on Saturday.
Let's hopefully he does that. Yeah, Palhinha is a really tough opponent, though. So I think.
So I think there's potential there. Look, Manchester United are 8th right now, and before the season started and after the Europa League final, I said this team is probably going to finish 8th next season. Ian Irvin has said there's many different ways to finishing 8th. And Andy Minton has said there will be more setbacks and there will be losses this season. And the idea is to try and keep in a certain level, not to go too high when you win, not to go too low when you lose. So for me, if they end up higher than 8th, I'm happy. But also I'm going to try and make sure I don't start screaming and crying and pulling my hair out and calling people a fraud if they lose 2-1 against Crystal Palace. I'll be there on Boxing Day when they play Newcastle. That's going to be a really, really hard game because we know that the team has had some problems with physical teams, but we will see. Look, I'm a lot more confident and I feel a lot happier now as a Manchester United fan at the start of November than I was at the start of September. So we'll see.
Yeah. Actually, when I was talking to Walid about our games in September, I told him hopefully October will return, the joy will return with October. Actually, Manchester United have been in love with this month for years.
Amorim has been nominated for Manager of the Month, and this is something that can be voted on. So it's not outside the realms of possibility that he will win Manager of the Month. It might go to Arteta because obviously Arsenal are doing very, very well. But look, these are good things. The fact that we can talk about players off the bench and he's using them properly, that's a good sign. Where you think about last season when it was just like there were 2 players in that starting line that were playing by default because there was no one else. So United are improving. There are some things to sort out, but for now, let's just look at the improvement and hope it keeps going up.
Yeah, let's be hopeful, and hopefully we'll be on the up in the next games. I want to ask you something off topic. Did you know that Manchester United had a huge fan base in Egypt?
I have come to learn this. I do not know why. So I've heard 2 or 3 reasons. Someone once suggested it's because they play in red. I mean, it can't be that simple.
No.
It can't be that simple.
No.
But please, why Manchester United? Why did you come to support Manchester United?
I supported Manchester United since the '99 year. It was the UV game in the semi-final in the Champions League. I was an 11-year-old and I was watching it with my father. My father was a supporter of Manchester United before I was, actually. But this game actually turned my head a little bit, and then it was the team for me since then. So I've been a supporter since a very, very long time. Actually, us supporters in Egypt, we've come to found each other after the Sir Alex Ferguson era, where the social media and have taken the storm, and we've met several times. The final against Spurs, actually there was a huge event for the supporters club, and it was covered in the official channel in Instagram. I think that there is an administrator of Manchester United. He's an Egyptian as well. So you'll be quite surprised how many Manchester United fans are here in Egypt. So.
And do you have a local team as well?
We do have loads of local teams. It's in Egypt. It's quite the most successful, or the
your league is fantastic. I want to know your team. What is your team in Egypt?
My team. No, actually right now I do have my brother-in-law is playing for a team, so I don't have a choice there. No. But usually, yes, I was supporting the biggest team, Al Ahly, in Africa before. Yeah, so
I've read a lot about how that derby.
Yeah, Al Ahly.
Ali versus Zamalek.
Yes, exactly. You've done your homework.
I think Andy Minton has attended this game in the past.
Really? Yeah.
He's either attended it or he's written about it in the past. And I mean, what I've seen from video footage of this game is phenomenal. The sound level is just a sound level out of football stadium that doesn't exist in Western Europe.
Yes, it does.
So one day I'll go to one of these games.
Yeah, well, whenever you're in Egypt, of course you could call me, me
Oh,
and Walid. Yeah,
thank you
this
very
will
much.
be an absolute pleasure, of course. And hopefully, if I'm there to Manchester, I will call
Absolutely.
you as well. So
I'll happily show you around some of the sites of this beautiful
yeah,
city.
this will be amazing. Thank you, Carl, for having you on this show and accepting the invitation. It was a real pleasure, and hopefully we will do it more often in the future.
Hopefully, I look forward to it. Look, it's always good to talk Manchester United with good people, and you are good
Yeah,
people. So
yeah. Thanks.
thank you for having me on your show, and hello to everyone.
Yeah, yeah.
I hope you have a great week.
Thanks. Yeah, you too. Thank you very much.